Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the committee of the whole meeting for September 25th. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda. So council, any deletions or additions to tonight's agenda? Seeing none. Administration. Any deletions?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, so I'd look for a motion. Councillor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that committee accept the agenda for committee of the whole meeting for September 25th, 2023 as presented.
Thank you. All right, and with that motion, councilors, are you guys logged in at that end for electronic voting? Perfect, okay. You're not. Okay, we'll just give a second then.
I can vote.
You can vote, okay. So we're gonna move that committee adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please indicate. Perfect, and that is carried unanimously. All right, moving on to citizens minute with council. Any citizens here? No, Jen, anything online?
No, there are none.
All right, thank you. So moving on then to delegations and then presentations. So just to be mindful to all the council, this is a jam-packed agenda this evening, this afternoon. So if we'll hear the presentations. Our first presentation is going to last approximately about 20 minutes. So if we can just keep our questions short and to the point, moving forward, that would be great. So. All right, so first on the agenda is re-imaging Main Street from a visitor economy lens presented by Dr. Walter Jamieson. Dr. Jamieson.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us in and sharing some ideas with you. We're here to present some preliminary ideas. We have a short slideshow to show you and a video, and then obviously we'll answer any questions that you have within the time constraints we have. We started on this project some time ago, and what we'd like to do is present our concept. We've talked to Winston and Debbie and Jordan and others about this. We're here today to get council support for the idea before we actually go into the community and talk about the next steps. For those of you who don't know, the Center for Hospitality Studies and Research is part of the larger project that I know you're aware of. And we see research as an important part of what we're doing. And we'll see a little bit more about that. And for the counselors, we have a package that we can share with you on some of the research we're doing. We just wanted to let everyone know that we're starting on a high point. We got a contract from Travel Alberta to actually carry the study, and we're quite thrilled about that, that there was confidence enough in us that Travel Alberta provided us with support and their participation. And it's really looking at how we can begin to measure the impact of tourism on smaller communities. And the really nice part about this is they've agreed to have Hinton act as the case study. And so that's going to give us visibility here amongst people involved in destination management in the province. And Jordan has asked Debbie and Winston to work along with us. And so what we're going to be seeing how it works. This is part of our strategy that whenever we do anything, obviously with the town's agreement, we'll always use Hinton as the case. And that builds our profile of being a place that people want to look towards for research in smaller communities and hospitality. And our experience has been that that's been an important leadership role that the towns we've worked with have been able to play. We're working on both the Green Square as well as the valley. And Hinton's unique in the sense it has two downtowns, which provides us with, if you want to, an additional challenge, but an opportunity. But when we first came to town and I saw the square, this is really a gem. A lot of communities would love to have something like this on the highway. It's just sort of an ideal situation. And so when we were looking at what kind of research we could do to get ourselves integrated in the community, this one became quite obvious. So how did we get here? This is the result of a large-scale study that was done at the university that I'm presently at in Toronto, where we worked with 100 communities across the country in trying to find out how we can use the visitor economy and tourism to help us help Main Streets. It's a book, and I think most of you have seen that book. We then came and said we're going to work with Hinton. We had a seminar on the 15th, and some of you were at that, where we received, I think, very positive response and ideas, and I'll be sharing some of those briefly with you. We then met with some town officials, and they suggested that we meet with you to share our ideas, and that's why we're here today. So this is our book. We published it. It's this happens to be the head of the department in Toronto who feels very strongly about quality of what we've done. So we're starting with the idea that Main Streets are a really important part, and our idea constantly through this is how can the tourism industry, the visitor economy, help the town in general. And all the research that we've done and others have done have clearly indicated that strong Main Streets, downtowns are important. And we have to think about this always, that we're going to be bringing a large number of students into town. And we're constantly going to be working at how we can make that experience better. Foreign students, students from across the country. And so part of this is self-interest, to be very honest, that we think that we need a stronger Main Street in both locations to meet the expectations of these students so that they feel positive about our community. Main Street is just a word we use. It can be downtown, it can be business improvement area, but we're just using Main Street as our umbrella term. We're using a well-accepted methodology, and it's been used in Australia. 880 communities in the United States have used it. It's being used in the United Kingdom, and it's got 4 parts to it. And you'll see how we're going to be employing this. So it's got design, economic development, marketing and branding, and then how do we organize it? Now, what makes us different is we're adding the visitor economy, and no one else is really doing this. And so we think we have a good opportunity to demonstrate across the country and hopefully internationally how we can actually use Hinton as an example. I won't go through this in detail, except to say that the research clearly indicates that a well-run, well-managed, well-designed Main Street can have all kinds of positive impacts. Part of it is for people to stay longer, and when we meet with you at other times, we can say more about this. But really, part of it then is how do we sell our development to visitors, but most importantly to students and faculty, convincing them that they want to come and study and work in Hinton. So we see that's important, and obviously, how do you create more jobs from that? So we're going to come up with a strategy. We'd love to come back and share that strategy with you, depending on how much time you have. We want to develop a model that's based on Hinton. We like it to be known as the Hinton model. We're going to share that out learning from in various ways, and other times we'll talk more about that. We're going to be running courses. We have our first course happening in November in Hinton on Main Street, using Hinton as the case study. We're going to try to engage the community in many ways as we can, and we want it to be a good place. We want the Main Streets to be a good place after 6. What do our students, faculty, and the visitors do after 6? So we now, this CHSR is already invested in this project quite significantly. and you'll see in a minute why. And we're prepared to do a series of things. So we're gonna do free design advice to anyone who wants it, absolutely voluntary. We're gonna be doing social media seminars. We'll do small business advice. We'll come up with a physical plan. We'll come up with some projects, and we will constantly be reporting back to the administration and council in terms of what we're doing. We think it's really important to engage the community in all of its parts. And I won't go through all of these, but these are some of the ones that we're looking at. But as an example, we'll go to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council and ask them specifically what they might want to do in developing this idea. We're going to do design competitions. So we really want this to be seen as a community effort. And most importantly, we want to document this, learn from it, and then share the good ideas and lessons we get to the Canadian and international audience. I should have introduced my colleagues here. Erica is our project coordinator, lives here in Hinton, works for us full-time, and I'll say more about her in a second. And Delphine, who works along with us in helping to move things forward. The work that you see here was done by Erica, and this is the kind of design advice we would provide to people if they want it, generating ideas. There's no preconceived notions here about what this is. It's really up to the owners and the tenants to do that. And so we've done this kind of work. We have a library already of potential improvements that we could do, and this is all the good work of my friend Erica. We also want to think about ways we involve children. And so we will be using our new lounge that we're just finishing at Pembina. Where on a Saturday or Sunday, we bring kids in, have a bunch of Lego and say, what do you think about your downtown? Or what do you think about an ideal building is? And we've seen this at work, and it works very effectively. The one on the bottom right-hand corner could be kids in high school using Lego. And one of our challenges is that a lot of people don't design or don't feel they can design. And so we want to use techniques that can encourage people to be creative. And we've used this before, and it works very effectively. It just happens that this model we have here it looks just like the Green Square. We've also, and Debbie and most of them have seen this, have a full-scale model in our building. People have a hard time dealing with spatial issues. And so this is the working model, and it can be adapted quite quickly. So we can enlarge the square, we can put in a van shell, and so we'll be doing that. So people can actually come in and we'll have pieces that they can actually move around. But we want people to also get a sense of the size of this place, that it is quite formidable. As you can see, there's quite a bit of parking, and we might talk about that some more. So anyone wants to contact us, come and have a look at our model. And we'll be inviting the Green Square people and others in to participate in the design. The buildings can get changed, so it's quite a flexible one. And we're quite excited about this. We see this now as being iconic, if you want to the community. I just put this in to say that we're following something in Toronto called Little Canada, where there's fascination with models, and we want to build on that. I'll just share with you quickly, Mr. Chair, is that one of the things that we're going to be pioneering is this idea of after 6 for small towns. And there are very significant studies that have been done on the nighttime economy, and I was part of that in Toronto, but it's really how do we harness that after 6? And we'd like to share more about that. We don't have time to talk about that this afternoon, but that's going to be one of our major areas, is trapping that tourist dollar in our community. And it can be night markets or coffee shops or celebrations or music. And we'd like to present these opportunities to see if there are people in the community that really want to do this. This is our building on Pembina. We've already invested a significant amount of money. We've redone the ground floor, latest technology that we're testing for distance as well as in classroom learning. We're just redoing the second floor. So there's a significant investment that we've made in this temporary building as we wait to into our new site. And it's going to be available to the community. And so if you want to do distance, we have the latest in distance. If you want to hold community meetings, this is really going to become a community resource. And we're going to, in the spring, do some new planting in other areas. So we're part of the Main Street, just down the street from it, and we see ourselves as neighbors. We see this as a 3-year timeline. It really depends on council's feedback. We're going to be inviting a limited number of people in November into our space to talk about it. That's the direct stakeholders if you want to. As I said, later in November, we're having our first professional development course. In February, we're going to meet formally with people in the Valley. We're meeting with them tomorrow, the leaders of the Merchants Association. We'll have a spring festival, which I will say more about at some other time in May. We'll then launch in the Valley in the fall, a full launch in 2025. And then we want to end this with a major national conference on Main Street and the visitor economy and a publication. So everything is designed to push our research agenda and to position Hinton as a place where you're going to want to come. And so we're really thinking about ourselves as the BAM Center, for those of you who know the BAM Center, that if you want to come and study small town hospitality, Main Street planning, destination management, we'd like to see in 3 years that we have that kind of standing, and it would be called the Hinton Center. These are just some quick budget thoughts, and we're prepared to commit $100,000 in kind and in real investment over the next 3 years. Some of it is Erica's time, my time, some other people's time, but we'll the agreement of council and other stakeholders will design and put up banners. We'll do capacity building. We'll help fund murals in the downtown, and of course we'll be doing research. These are suggestions that the town might want to look at lighting and some public improvements. Open to discussion. We want to go to the industry, say, how can you help us out? We want to go to the community groups and see, can you help us volunteer running the May Festival and other kinds of things? Go to Travel Alberta, money for product development, and then to work cooperatively with the newly formed DMO, Destination Management Organization, and the Chamber of Commerce in helping on branding and marketing. So we see this as a community effort that everyone has an important role to play. But today we're really looking for council to support the idea. Now we have a video that we can do here that we'd like to share with you. Now this is quite a short video. But this is work again that Erica did. We'll be one of the first, we will be the first Main Street in a smaller community to be using virtual reality. And we're quite excited about this, and we want to judge the effectiveness of this and see how well it works. And so this is about 2 minutes, and I'll just share some thoughts we have with you. So coming into the square, you'll now know you're coming into Main Street. What we've done is, you can see we've got lighting, we've done some planting, all of this now to increase the appeal of Main Street as you drive by the highway, because we want to trap you here and to spend our money, and we won't let you leave town until we spend money. Just turning here, and one of the concerns that we've heard is that there are quite a few blank walls in the downtown. And so these are really good places to do murals. We would see murals being open to competition. We would design them, but we would find that we actually cost of doing it. There's several places in town where this could occur. Several communities are now using this very effectively as a way of building the image of the community. Might be a reason to come here to actually look at the murals. And my colleagues and I have done a major impact study that looks at the importance of public art and murals in terms of building, if you want to, the appeal of the area. And then I'm going to turn around here. And then what we've done along here is we've just presented ideas of what the buildings could look like. This is by no means what we think they should be in the future. Obviously, this is something to be done by the people in the community, but it's introducing, if you want to, design possibilities. One thing we're really quite excited about is the ability to work with various people in terms of how we can begin to use the public space more effectively. Now, the Grind is already doing this, but we see this as being an opportunity where we can actually move out at times temporarily or not to animate the area, to make it work more effectively, to make it friendlier to visitors. And as I said, the Grind has already showed us leadership in that area. We know that you already are doing the areas with food trucks. We see that this would be a place where they could be permanently located, installing water and electricity and other things. And then also a place where we could do pop-ups. So where you see these tents, could be pop-ups. So it could be people in the community who and surrounding region that are doing crafts or want to serve food. And so this is a way of involving the larger community in what we're doing. We want to talk to the owners of vacant stores to see whether they would work with us in filling the empty spaces with pop-ups. So this is an idea again, animating the area. Again, these are our suggestions, by no means what might necessarily happen. You can see the lighting through here that we see. This is one thing we heard quite consistently on June 15th. And then I want to spend just a few seconds on the square itself. One of the things that we talk about is tactile. And so what we want to suggest are some easily done things to show progress. And so we've seen examples in places in the United States where suddenly the picnic table becomes an important opportunity. And so we might supply the picnic table, but then a community group, an arts group might then take it and paint it, becomes theirs. So that gets more people with ownership, if you want to, of the central square. And again, we replicate this. One of the things that we want to do is use the creative energy of the community to see whether we can come up with elements of the square that would be locally designed, locally produced, and as a way of telling people in the community and outside that this is really a vibrant community that is ready to tell its story. Part of telling that story, we would argue, is the kind of public art that might be available. Again, another example. One of the things that we're concerned with is what do kids do when they come to the square. So this could be a fountain that with water coming up, kids could come and play in the fountain, their parents could go and spend their money. As you can see, we're quite mercenary in terms of this whole thing. In the wintertime, it could be flooded, it becomes a skating rink, we have bonfires, but animation is really important here. And we would like to say to people, if you're staying along the highway in a hotel or a motel, by the way, come down to the square. There's things going on. We can talk more about that. But the whole idea is that programming becomes an important part of this. And so we're just go around the square here. And it stopped here. Oh, no, it isn't. And I come right back to the beginning. And so this is really our attempt here to say that we have a way now from the technology point of view to help people visualize what the downtown could look like. But part of this then, when it becomes more sophisticated, becomes part of our marketing. So this is the way we tell our story. Come to our community, and this is the kind of thing you could use. And we're prepared to work on with the relevant stakeholders to make that happen. That's all in-house. That's what we'll be doing in-house. And we're lucky enough that found somebody in Hinton who has that skill set that can help us to do that. So that just gives you a sense of what we are visualizing, reimagining to some extent what this really, the gem that needs to be polished could look like. And we want to use that as a way of doing that. And then I just will end here. No, that's. So just in closing here, so we'll do a tactical and action plan, assuming council thinks that's a good idea. We've shared with you what we plan to invest and to do, again, with agreement. We want to make sure it's community-wide, and we're committed to hiring somebody that will work along with us to work in getting the community involved, however defined. Quite clearly, town council, the town, are key to this in terms of the moral support of supporting the idea. And we'd like to be able to go out, once you've talked about this, to say that the town supports this idea. Bring the plan back to you for your comment, support, and then we'd start to move ahead only once we've got that support. And we're committed as this project of keeping you informed of what we're doing and monitoring it. One of the things I promised when I first met with the mayor, when I first came to town, is that we're going to establish as part of a plan some indicators of progress, and we will come back and tell you how well we're doing, so that you can see that we're accountable. And if we're not meeting our goals, we'll have to readjust our strategy in order to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jameson, and to your group there. So council, I'm going to open it up for any questions from the group on the presentation. So if I can see the other two folks, thank you. So I guess I'll kick things off here. I mean, this is a great idea. I don't like at all. I think that, you know, taking a look at these areas, and I'm assuming that, are we just focusing on Green Square, or are we going to focus on other parts of our community as well, say the Valley District and things?
The Valley, these are being done in conjunction.
Okay.
So the idea is we start with Green Valley. In the beginning of next year, we meet formally with the Valley and get this process going again. And so we do a replication. We're already starting to redo the model so that there would be one there. And so we're meeting with, as I mentioned very briefly, we're meeting with the head of the Valley Merchants Association tomorrow. They're quite excited. We had an informal quick meeting with them. And so we'll be doing that. So it's not like they're being left behind. And so this will be replicated. Now, if I might just say, the challenge is going to be to link them. The first time we met with the Valley people, we said we want to do cross promotion, and that's exactly what we are. So one of the ideas that we have is a trail for kids, and you're going to have to go to both places. So you start off this trail, we're telling the Hinton story if you want to, and then you have to go down to the Valley or the other way around. So we're trying to tell people there's great stuff in both places. This is to the visitor. And what's really amazing, if I just might say, I had been here twice for extended periods of time, and I really had not heard about the Mexican restaurant and the drugstore. I mean, that's dynamite stuff. And so the idea is to say, if you want the true Hinton experience, you have to go to both places. Not the same night, but one night you can go down there and whatever. But it's up to the people in both places, the merchants and owners, to tell us what they want to do. All we can do is come up with suggestions, but it's both.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rees.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Jameson, good to see you again, and hello to Delphine. During your presentation, I heard you mention the Hinton Youth. Could you quickly go over the role that you feel that they could play?
Yes, thank you. We just found out about the Hinton Youth, and so we've done this with other people. And they said, look, if you've really got to involve this group, they're key, they're the future of the community. And so one of the things that we'd like to do is to, first of all, meet with them, say, this is what we're doing, how can you help? And then, but more formally saying, we'd like your input into what this place might look like, how it might operate. So that's why we suggested Lego or working with Erica on visualization. So they're bought into this. And there should be aspects of this that are identifiable. Whether it's a mural, which could be a really cool thing to do, which could, all the youth could participate and do it over a period of time so that it builds people coming in. It's great for their parents because they're going to want to bring their parents. When they have visitors, they're going to come and do it. So we can't dictate exactly what that might be, but we'll have some opportunities for them to actually work along with us. And so we see that as a key part of young kids, school kids, go to the high schools and see them as an important part of our stakeholder group.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Taylor?
Can you send me your presentation? I couldn't see it. I'm
Yes.
sorry. The video?
Yes.
Yeah,
Send it.
So for future presentations, if I got to be able to see them, or else I'm not really participating in the meeting.
Yeah.
My question is, what's the cost of this and how is it going to be funded?
Plan really is going to be take that into account. So what we're saying is that we as an organization are prepared to fund some basic elements, murals, banners, those kinds of things. Everything after that is going to be a result of community effort. And that's going to be part of this 3-year plan. Now, one of the major things, and for the counselor that was with us and Brian were there, the whole idea of lighting the main street was really a strong idea. And so that is not something obviously within our means, but it would be a matter of going out and finding out who could do it. Is it part of the town council's contribution to the Main Street project? Is it something that the mill or somebody else might do? So everything that we do is going to have a sponsor, other than the things that we as a CHSR could do. And so, but I can't tell you the price because we haven't moved along there. We'd have to price out lighting and those kinds of things. Here, they're just simply ideas that have come to us from members of the community. But the plan will have a budget with figures in it that council, as well as other stakeholders from the private sector, could adopt as part of the overall effort.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
But a significant portion of this could get funded through us developing an incentive program for the upper or lower valley, right?
Right.
So no
That's
direct
awesome.
cost.
That's a question, Councillor Taylor, or a statement?
That was a question.
So I'm not sure if that's to them or to our own administration, whether or not that would be a consideration for an incentivized program of some sort for either the valley and the hill. Is that?
We would have to research what we could possibly do for incentives, and I wouldn't have an answer to that today.
Right. Okay. Councillor Taylor, any other follow-up? Yep. You good? Okay. Anyone else from council? Well, it's very intriguing. But I appreciate you coming tonight. I mean, taking a look at those areas and how we can beautification and beautify them. I mean, sure, there's a lot of moving parts to it, but it sounds like you've got a well-detailed plan, both consulting our businesses and getting groups involved to see what that looks like, and then we see what that final product is and what kind of costs are. Will be exciting and what we can maybe initiate. So thank you to your group. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move on then to our second delegation. This is from STARS. Glenda Farndon, you're with us tonight, so we're gonna get you all set up and get you started.
This is twice I've seen you this year, but I thought it must be something to do with wanting to get us in the right time frame with budgeting each year. So
That's correct.
twice this year, so a lot of different information to bring to you and your council. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. And then you were fishing that. Okay. It's the right road, I think. Going in and stuff. Okay. Am I gonna go your way?
Absolutely.
All right, all yours, Linda.
Okay, well, thank you again for your time, really appreciate it, and I have lots more information. Very pleased to see some of our chain of survival partners here as well, so really appreciate that, and you know, we work alongside you. Anytime that we're coming out, we rely on all of our chain of survival partners, so I appreciate that so much. So first and foremost, just wanna draw your attention that, you know, after 37.5 years, we are going through rebranding. So a little bit different logo that you'll see there and a little bit different focus. You know, we've always been about saving lives. But now with the latest in technology, the brand new fleet, you know, much improved state-of-the-art medical equipment, so many different factors. Now we want to be able to go one step further, and I'll bring some more information during the presentation to provide critical care anywhere. Oh, I'm gonna do this. Second wrong? No. You said click. I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Can I just, no. Sorry, I don't know. I was hoping to just use these buttons, but it's not working for me.
And I think it's a scroll, because it's media.
What's that?
Scroll to the next page.
I tried that scroll too, but it wasn't doing anything.
There we go. Just scroll down.
Down. Okay, I'll try that. So, of course, you know, last presentation, so we are fueled by generosity. I did talk to you about Alberta Health Services and our 10-year affiliation agreement, which expired in 2020. We've been year to year after that. Very pleased to bring the information that at the very end of last year, they did give us a top up to 50% government funding for last year, 50% of operational cost. So basically an overall cost of $10 million per base, 3 bases in Alberta, Grand Prairie, Edmonton, and Calgary. $30 million operational cost does not include the Emergency Link Center, the dispatch center in Calgary, does not include education piece, does not include administration costs. So strictly just operational costs, but we're still very happy to have that top up. We're currently in very high level discussions with them, hopeful for another long-term service agreement with Alberta Health Services at the 50% funding. So still do not have any confirmation yet. So we're not quite sure what we will be receiving for 2022. Expenditure side, we still maintain that we are just a little over 80% for all aviation and medical expenditures. The Emergency Link Center at 6%, And once again, base operations and administration costs at 12%. CRA allows charitable entities up to 35% for administration costs. So we are very much continuing to do our due diligence. This is where we lie now with our municipality support across the province and into northeastern BC. Everything that you see green is an annual municipal supporter like the town of Hinton. Now we are starting to build regional partnerships. We've added 5 new rural municipalities as well as 6 more urbans like yourselves. So building regional partnerships between the county or the municipal district and the towns and villages that lie within those boundaries. So, for example, town of Edson and yourselves have been long-term supporters. We still do not have the county, so we're still hopeful continuing to work with them. But prior to wildfires, we know that and recognize that you guys have really experienced a lot of tragedy and a lot of challenge with the wildfire situation. So we have had the opportunity prior to that, working with the county to possibly develop 2 designated landing sites in areas where we could still rendezvous with ground ambulance. A designated site, we've developed one in Parkland County. So there is interest there. They have acknowledged that they'd be willing to work with us. So now we'll just have to go back to the county and see where that lies and where we can go. And still, we're hopeful though that they will become a municipal supporter as well to help us offset the mission costs in your area. We have 4 different areas that are pending. All the ones that are in white are those that are still not on board. 9 municipal leaders in the red boxes as well. Basically, the united effort across the entire province and into northeastern BC is to ensure that we all have access to robust health and safety network. This is a current statistics for STARS missions flown for town of Hinton and within Yellowhead County itself, up to September 15th of this year. So almost 6 years in total, to show you that overall throughout your Yellowhead County area, the boundaries, that you average about 36 missions per year. This represents over $275,000 per year in mission costs only. So not including, having a base or anything, just actual mission costs. So we're very hopeful that you and your residents see value in your partnership with STARS annually. Hinton, as far as scene calls and your critical transfers, you have a very busy hospital here. You average about 12 to 13 missions per year between the two. So at least 1 a month, every month is here. And we're also still very hopeful to work with you and your council and your residents and forestry as well, and maybe helipad development for your hospital, which could be a significant asset for this entire region, as well as just in life-saving efforts. So within Yellowhead County boundaries, again, on the left-hand side first. So now there has been a total of 255 residents that lie within Yellowhead County boundaries that have been served by 3 different Alberta bases across 2 different provinces in Alberta and BC. 62 of these residents were flown from Hinton. 92 were flown from Edson. 101 were flown from 20 other municipalities. So again, the most important factor here is that our partnership is testament to the fact that all of your residents and your neighbors have access to STARS across Western Canada. These red dots all represent all the different locations where these residents were flown. So, and here's the listing here to show you the different numbers of where they were flown at. So once again, partnership is key. The Emergency Link Center receives over 36,000 emergency requests every year. Previously, I had presented that we were now having our transport physicians taking a shift in the emergency link center. It proved especially to be, during COVID, to be so beneficial that it is now in place. So our transport physicians are always in the emergency link center to take, provide medical oversight and guidance or procedural guidance on every critical call. So once it's deemed that it is of a critical nature, regardless of the mode of transport, they may be going by ground ambulance or Alberta Health Services fixed wing or STARS, but it's our transport physicians that will provide all the critical care guidance. They will make all the medical decisions for which destination for that patient. They will also, while we're en route with the patient, they can be doing all the logistical arrangements with the receiving doctors and the receiving hospitals for such things as scheduling a neurosurgeon, scheduling this cardiac cath lab. All of this is going on in the background while we're en route with the hospital, or I mean, to the hospital. As well now, we're also trying to have a closer integration with Alberta Health Services as far as critical care. So now we can also, our crews have sometimes gone by ground ambulance if it's of a critical nature and the best resource or the fastest at the time. We can rendezvous and maybe our crew have to go on ground ambulance, or they've gone on fixed wing with that particular patient if it is of critical nature. As well, we are also looking at virtual care now. We're having opportunities where the transport physician can FaceTime with the rural physician at a rural hospital like Hinton, for example, and provide procedural guidance. You know, a lot of our smaller rural hospitals, they do not see critical care every day. They're not intubating patients every day, you know, like that is a piece that we can bring to the table and even virtually help to save a life. So of course, now we have a complete fleet of 10. In October of last year, we received the 10th and final helicopter. Since then, we have incrementally also been selling off our BK-117, our previous fleet. There was still a market in certain areas. And so each time we've been able to sell one, then we attributed those proceeds to the capital campaign. So I'm very pleased to say that a more than $150 million capital campaign has been completed. And all 10 helicopters are paid for. Of course, last year we also did celebrate over 20 years of having night vision goggle capability. We were the very first in Canada to have this life-saving measure. More than 50% of our calls are at night. So literally tens of thousands of patients' lives have been saved because we were able to fly at night. So last year I brought you kind of a small insight into some of the really highly specialized equipment in the back of the helicopter. But I had a couple of councils that were like very interested in how much does that cost on what you showed us. So here's the different ones that I had presented to you last year. So it represents almost $200,000 of medical equipment in each helicopter, and every single helicopter is equipped exactly the same. But just to give you kind of an idea, you know, like for blood, you know, we need a blood warmer, we need the little specialized cooler, the iStat lab we use all the time. Most of these things for most critical patients, all of these will be used for each patient. Or pain management drugs up to $100 per dose. Or the thrombolytics for stroke, you know, and $2,700 per dose. So there's a lot of different factors here that, you know, really makes a difference for many, many patients. So, you know, obviously we do mandatory training in the simulation lab, as well as online textbook training, hands-on simulation with the specialized high fidelity mannequins. Our crew members, it's mandatory for 200 hours per year of mandatory training. Using the high fidelity mannequins, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of industry partners that believe in education, and so they've been able to help to fund and provide these mannequins for each base. So we have all different sizes as well, from neonatal to pediatric to the adult mannequins, as well, even a pregnancy mannequin for practicing birthing as well, or, you know, critical situations. So it's really important, like we have our education leaders at each base that also, they recreate and replicate very complex, distinct cases. So when our crew two, would go out, the advanced life support paramedic and the critical care nurse, they may come on to a situation with a certain patient that you may not ever see them, maybe once in 10 years, something really complex. And it's really important that all of our crew members have that exact same experience, that they know how to deal with that. And so our education leaders take those specialized cases, recreate it, and then all of our crew members are put through those paces in the training, and so that they have experienced that same very complex type of situation. We also do simulation in the field. This is to make sure that our crews are ready for the unthinkable, inclement weather that they have to prepare for, patient vulnerability, and very high consequence situations. We just recently, like the base out of Grand Prairie, we see a lot more going to very remote areas with very complex situations where the crew has had to respond to the patient where the helicopter could only land in a certain area. So then the crew members had to go by sled, quad, horseback. And just more recently, there was a situation where they could only land the helicopter on the riverbank on the one side, but the patient was on the other side. So they had to pack up all of their portable gear, put it on their backs, everything that they needed, and they actually had to by foot forge across the river in order to get to where the patient was. It took 6 of them to be able to bring the patient back across the river to get to where the helicopter was, because it was such dense forest on the other side. So, I mean, they really have to think outside the box and be able to practice in the field for the unthinkable. Of course, we practice with our chain of survival partners as well, not only for landing zone training, we also do recreate like mock training scenarios, so that we can all have a participation and all know what's the best method for, safety is always of the utmost priority. And of course, also making sure that we train for such things as multi-casualty incidents, when all of our training partners will all be there and we will all be on site in order to get to the patients, manage multiple patients, manage multiple helicopters that are coming in, like, for example, the Columbia ice field situation. I think we have 4 different helicopters from 2 different provinces, all responding so that they could be ready and take patients as needed, and of course that means that we need our chain of survival partners on the ground to make sure everyone's safe and that it's expedited. And last year I told you about the International Air Medical Transport Conference. So it's a very rigorous competition. As you can see, they recreate the most complex cases. They put our crew of 2 through, like, they're being graded as they are performing. They have to triage multiple types of patients and multiple sizes of patients. They create the most inconceivable critical situations. Unless you're there, you just cannot even imagine how intense it is. And I was very happy to tell you last year that our crew from Saskatoon took 1st place. And so now we are gearing up again, where I told you that we always host our own internal competitions across all bases to allow only one team of 2 throughout all stars to have the honor to represent stars at this international competition against all other helicopter EMS providers in the world. So you can see that they're gearing up now, doing lots of complex training again, so that they can compete, and so that we will find out in, I think, March or so, who our next team will be to represent stars in the upcoming simulation competition. So thank you once again, Town of Hinton. We thank you for your leadership. We thank you for your ongoing dedication, and we thank you for your unwavering support. Your current pledge of support, I thank you very much. Your council moved to a fixed rate of support. So that way we won't be seeing the fluctuation on a per capita basis. Many of the municipalities across the province have moved to a fixed rate of support. So that gives us some stabilization on what we know we can count on. And the fact that it's on a standing motion, meaning that, you know, we're just in your budget every year at a fixed rate. We appreciate that very much. You are helping to save a life every day. A life is saved every day. We're averaging 10 missions per day. More recently now with seeing the post-COVID challenges that are arising, some of the very unthinkable types of things. We are seeing a lot of respiratory distress in different areas from the wildfires as well. So our call volume has lately been up 35%. So you can imagine that we need our municipal partners more than ever. We need to know that we can count on you. Partnership makes everything possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Council, any questions? Well, thank you. I do have one, and I guess it's again, another. We talk a lot about downloading in the provincial to down to municipalities, and I'm feeling a sense that these areas that are not covering the costs are downloading them onto us. In a way, right? Because you're still providing that service, but it's on, you know, without any financial assistance from those areas. Have you ever considered billing them for that service in their area if they're not? Because I mean, in my mind, if they get an actual bill of what the costs are, they might consider starting to contribute. But has that been any thought of?
No, we started out 37 years ago as a charitable model.
Mhm.
And that meant that, you know, anyone that needed stars found themselves having the worst day of their entire lives had access to that, right? We've built on that. We're approaching 40 years. We're very proud of the partnerships that we have shared with everyone. And the most that we can ask is to, you know, help reach out to those in your own discussions and things. Like I've been working with a lot of different municipalities, Zone 5 especially. That's where we ended up getting those 5 new rural municipalities joined on, you know, because that I was invited there, and they kind of helped to open some eyes, I guess, in that the fact, you know, we're not asking to have a reimbursement of every single cost, right? We just want the partnership, because as we move forward, that's going to be the key, which is why we also have those regional partnerships and those municipal leaders that were in the red boxes. Some of those have moved to they're at substantial, like several of them at $200,000 per year. And we are now a line item in their emergency protective services budget. We're part of that. And, you know, the fire chief comes to talk about some of the missions that have happened in their area, you know, when we have flown together and worked together. And he presents a check every year because we're in their budget. So those are different avenues on how we have grown to ensure that we have stability. So now I'm just working on trying to ensure that we can maybe bring the entire province together, especially with the postal code data, you know, where residents are being flown all across Western Canada. Like there's a good value there for what we bring to the table. That's, you know, outside of your boundaries, right? Accident and illness do not happen just because you're close to home.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions for Glenda before we let her go? All right, well, again, Glenda, thank you for coming out, not once but twice. Appreciate that. And yeah, always good work that you guys do, and look forward to hearing from you again next year. So
Thank you very much.
excellent. Thanks,
Right.
Linda.
Jen has the link so that you can have these digitally, but this was a brand new one that's just come out. In the fact that STARS provides a safe patient, no helicopter required, that virtual care that we talked about. So some really good stories there. We flew our record mission after almost 38 years from the Grand Prairie base. Very good story. And the calendar, the brand new calendar is out now, so it's available online, stars.ca. So really appreciate your partnership. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks, Linda. All right, council, we're gonna move on to our next delegation then. 4.3 Hinton Disc Golf Association, presented by Jared Manson. So, I'm guessing he's outside. And
Can
just
you
for-
hear me?
Yes.
Can you- I'd like to be able to see this presentation, please. The last two I couldn't see.
Okay, we'll work on that. Just for councils, also, the presentation was sent to us just recently in our emails, just looking at.
Yeah, I don't have access to that right now.
It was sent at 11:50 AM this morning, so there is an email with the presentation.
Yeah, I don't have access.
Before you get started, Jared, welcome. Ms. Davy Campbell, is there a way that our counselors at the other end can see the presentation?
Not unless I share it, and I don't have it on mine unless I log in to Zoom and leave another 5-10 minutes for me to do that, so it was even well.
Okay. Okay, I guess then we'll take a 5-minute break to set that up, because we aren't set up for that right now, Counselor Taylor. And to Counselor Race, we're not set up for it right now, we have to go into Zoom to do that, so. So we'll pause for 5 minutes and get that set up.